Hey guys, if this is your first time watching one of my videos, welcome. I'm Ashley and I'm a doula, a birth photographer, and a childbirth educator in the Greater Toronto area, and I'm extremely passionate about informed and empowered birth. If you have joined me before, welcome back. You'll notice that this video is a little different than usual because my husband is with me today. This is Alden. We've been together for 7 years, and I convinced him to come in this video with me today to share our story of infant loss, because today is actually Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. So we're going to share a story, and then I think if it's okay with you, Alden, we can share some of the things that helped us get through our loss and come out the other side in one piece. So our pregnancy was our first pregnancy, and it was super normal. I had midwives. I was planning on birthing at the hospital because you weren't comfortable with home birth, even though I personally would have done a home birth. So when I was 38 and 4 days, I started labor, really, really early labor. I started with back pain that wouldn't quit, and then the next day I was having contractions. You went to work.
Yeah, I did.
You went to work because I knew as a first-time mom that it was probably going to be a while before anything actually happened. I was having contractions. They were like every 10 to 30 minutes and super mild, so like nothing to write home about. I had a nap, and when I woke up, I went to the bathroom and I had some bleeding. And it was a little bit concerning, so I called my midwife, and she said, hey, look, I'm at the hospital at a birth. Can you come in and we'll check you out? So I went in the night, so I was 38 and 5 that day, and they hooked me up to the monitor, and there was some concerns. You joined me at some point because this was like in the evening, so I drove myself to the hospital in early labor because nobody else was around to bring me.
Was it? No, it wasn't like that. No,
yeah, you met me at the hospital.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
No.
Yes, you did.
I drove you to the hospital.
No, you didn't.
No,
you drove me the next day when I was in actual labor.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
I drove myself to the hospital that time.
Yeah.
And you met me there, and my mom met us there.
Oh, yeah.
And they hooked me up to the monitors, and her heart rate was low. And then she had me eat something, so I ate, I think, a donut or something from the Tim Hortons in the basement of the hospital. And after that, they monitored me for another hour, and everything was good. So her heart rate had picked back up. It was probably low for me just not eating enough that day, and they sent me home. And I went home and I labored. I think you slept.
Yes,
yeah,
I
you
did.
slept.
I slept like a baby.
You slept like a baby. So anyway, I labored. I went in the tub. Things started to pick up, and around 2 a.m. we headed into the hospital. We called the midwife and headed into the hospital. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning when I was 38 and 6 days. And everything was fine. They hooked me up. I wasn't coping very well with labor, and I ended up getting an epidural, which was not in my plan. Things went a little south because my plan was to have a water birth, and this hospital in particular had a beautiful water birth room, and you were allowed to birth in the tub at this hospital. This is the only hospital in the GTA that allows actual birthing in the tub. That's what I wanted. Unfortunately, the tub was, first it hadn't been cleaned.
Yeah, it was dirty.
And then once my midwife had it cleaned, she realized there was no hot water, so it wasn't going to do me any good. The water birth was out. And so I opted for the epidural because I literally had no other comfort measures to turn to. I wasn't a doula at the time. I didn't have a doula with me. I was in labor, I got the epidural, and I slept, and then my water broke, and there was meconium in the amniotic fluid. There was meconium staining. So what the concern is that the infant will basically swallow it and aspirate on it. So as protocol, once she was almost out, right at the very, very end, the pediatrician and respiratory therapists were called into the room just as a matter of protocol. My midwife was still in charge of everything at that time. And so she was born.
Yeah, she looked at me. Her eyes were like open.
Yeah, she cried.
and her head like shaped like a cone. Yeah, I remember those things, and she looked right at me and was like, she's here.
So she cried once. I think they had her on my chest for maybe a couple seconds,
Yeah.
just enough to like clamp the cord basically, and then they took her over to the warmer, which was just across the room, and the pediatrician and the respiratory therapists were working on her. And I don't really remember.
Yeah, I think one of the nurse or something recognized that she was still a little bit blue, right? And she wasn't changing color, but she was underneath the warmer, but she still wasn't changing color. You know, so they got a little bit concerned, and then they took her to the NICU, right?
Yeah, there was some concern that the oxygen on the wall wasn't working properly.
Yeah.
And so they decided to take her to the NICU, and you went with her, and I stayed behind. Obviously, I had to get stitched up, I had to get cleaned up. And so I did that, and I was expecting you to come back. I was expecting her to come back, and nobody came back. And then the midwife that was looking after Autumn came and just said something along the lines of, like, they're just kind of working on her. And so that was about an hour post-birth, and I basically went to the NICU. And then, oh my God, I don't even know. Like, I remember going into the room, and they were working on her, but it's very, very chaotic scene.
Yeah.
I know you saw,
like
everything from.
Yeah, I was there. They
beginning.
were like, they tried to give her oxygen through the breathing tube, right? And no, at first they tried to give her oxygen to the back. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the back. That wasn't working, and I think they tried the oxygen through the breathing tube thing, right? So they were working on her, but I think, to me, I feel like they didn't know what they were doing, to be honest, based on what I saw, right? It's like they were confused. They definitely didn't seem like they were professionals, right? They were all over the place. They got to be calling for chest scans, all that. It seemed like they were in disorder. They weren't expecting. It's like they weren't ill prepared for what was taking place, right? They've never seen a case like that before. It's like something new, foreign to them, right? And to my shock, I was like, "You guys are doctors and nurses." I'm like, I think you should be a little bit more professional in how you're doing it, right? They were just all over the place. There was stuff spilling out. I think there was some blood spilled on the floor. And the thing about, and the next thing, there was no privacy, right? Because this was in the NICU, and I think there was another mom there, and she was seeing everything that was going on. You know, they were just like, everyone was just looking, right? And I know
while they're trying to resuscitate their child.
Yeah.
It's very much a blur now, but reading back the medical reports, I requested everything after the fact, so I have all of the details. And it was pretty soon. She was born at 3:15 in the afternoon, and by 3:30, the pediatrician had called the sick kids ambulatory team to come. We're lucky that we live in Toronto, and it's a major metropolitan area, and we have a lot of really great hospitals. The hospital that we chose for the birth is a level 2, so they are able to care for relatively sick infants. For whatever reason, they weren't able to manage Autumn. And so they called for sick kids, and it took sick kids till 4:45 to actually arrive at the hospital. And I remember,
I think what happened was, based on my memory, is that when they checked for meconium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they checked for meconium, and when they figured out that it wasn't meconium, I think that's when they start, panicking, because they didn't know what to do next. Once they check her for meconium, and they figured out it wasn't meconium that was blocking anything or obstructing anything, then they started panicking, because they were like, what next? What could it be now?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like they were not prepared for what if it's not meconium? What else could it be?
So they did aspirate her lungs, and there was nothing in her lungs,
there was nothing.
So that wasn't the problem.
Yeah, so that's when everything started getting a little bit downhill.
And it was before sick kids arrived that she went into cardiac arrest, and they had to bring her back.
But once sick kids arrived, they got the situation under control. You know, I keep on saying to myself, you know, if they had called sick kids and they could have handled the situation, or they could have called sick kids earlier, maybe the situation would have been different. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, but that's...
Well, by the medical reports, by the time sick kids got there, it was already too late. She was brain dead. So she had lost enough oxygen to her brain that there was just no saving her. So she was alive. Her body was alive, but her brain was gone. And so I remember the respiratory therapist working on her, and then the lead of the team on sick kids turned to us and said, "We don't think she's going to make it," which was like total shock, because the whole time I was thinking, well, they're just gonna, the kids is gonna come in and they're gonna stabilize her, or do whatever they need to do, and then we're gonna go. And I'm thinking in my head about the logistics of, okay, do I get to ride in the ambulance with her? Does he get to ride? How do we get down there? Who's going to meet us there? And all that stuff. And then so when she turned and said, "We don't think she's going to make it," at first I was like, "What do you mean?" And then when it clicked in, then it was like, your whole world just falls away. Your whole world just falls away. And that was kind of the beginning of the end, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like it almost seems like it was like just yesterday, because it's still, each time I look at a picture here, the one picture that we actually have, it does bring up memories, right? And each time I have this flashback, right, the moment, back at the hospital, it just keep on playing in my head. I basically for the past 2 weeks, I've been to her gravesite like every week. Like, I've been over there every Saturday since the past 3 weeks. Yeah, I've been over there like every Saturday. And it's coming up to her birthday now, so it's bringing back a lot of memories. I mean, it should have been 5 this year. So our birthday is coming up, right? So, and each time I look at these pictures of her, I'm just wondering, how she should have looked. I mean, at age 5, age 1, age 2, age 3, age 4, up until age 5. I mean, so it kind of hurt me, right? Because it was my first child, right? And to lose your first child in a way like that, she was born, and then you had all these plans, like, what you're gonna do, and all that thing. I'm happy for my other 2 kids, Stephen and Xavier, but I still have Autumn as, she's like my first child, so that bond that you never get to have with a kid, with your child, right? And to lose her the way that we did, after preparing so much, each time I go in the room, I keep on having flashbacks to the hospital, like, and the way that she went. For the past 3 weeks, as I said before, I went to the gravesite like every Saturday. I actually don't know about this because she's actually sleeping, but I am over there, right? And I just keep on like, how should have looked, at age 5. And she should have been a beautiful girl, I guess we're never going to be able to find out. I'll get it, just hold her in her heart. She's going to be in her heart forever. Right? We will never forget her. I mean,
I don't usually get to hear this stuff. It's not something we really talk about.
Yeah, I tend not to talk about sometimes what I'm feeling inside. I tend to keep it to myself sometimes, right? But I do actually feel it, especially when coming around this time, and I know that, okay, our birthday is coming up. And each time I'll sit there and I turn my head to the picture, because we have a picture up here, right here, and I just like, I get so sad inside, because I know she was my first, and I had so much. Yeah, I had so much planned for her, and knowing that she's not here to actually share, even our brothers and sisters, our brother and sister. Yeah, it's just hard knowing that she's a bigger sister and she's not here to enjoy the moment with us. But I still have that special bond with her, even though she's not here. I still picture her in my mind, how she would have looked at age 5, or what she looked as she grew up. And then I think I'll be having that in my head for the rest of my life.
So they told us that she wasn't going to make it, and then we went back to our room, and then I went and said goodbye. So I was lucky that I was able to hold her. My parents were there, so my father and my mother were there, and they got to hold her. And my mother took the only good picture that we have of her with her cell phone. And yeah, we said goodbye. So she passed at 7:05 p.m. Alden, you?
I could not actually say goodbye if you died, knowing that okay, she's gone, right? So I couldn't have the strength. I didn't have the strength to go in here and actually say goodbye. I don't know. I didn't want to believe in myself, tell myself that okay, tell myself that she's actually gone. So I could not say goodbye.
For me, I was there in the room with my mother and my father, and I said goodbye. So I was able to. We were all able to hold her, and then I held her while she passed, basically. 7:05, the doctor came in and just confirmed that she was gone. And my step-parents stayed out in the hall with Alden, so he wasn't alone. He had some company, and
I basically collapsed on the floor once they said that okay, she's not going to make it, right?
yeah, I didn't
So
really want to
I
mention
passed
that.
out. I passed out on the floor, and they called what?
They called it code blue. I figuratively say that your world, when they say we don't think she's going to make it, your world just like slips away from under you. For him, it literally did, because he passed out on the floor of the NICU, and they had to call a code blue, and all of these people came in, and I don't even know where all these people came from. They just came running from like every different direction. But by the time they got there, you were up and walking.
Yeah.
I mean, that was hard. Like, Jesus, like driving home. First leaving the hospital, knowing that you're leaving your daughter there.
Look in the back of the car seat is there. You come home to the house, and the room is there. Everything's all prepared. You thought you were going to bring your daughter home.
Yeah, we had the swing set up
everything
already.
was like set, ready to go. Like everything was ready to go. So basically, what I did was like I came in and I just closed the door to our room.
You put the swing
Yeah.
in that room,
And I closed it. I just closed it. I didn't want to go in the room. I think we didn't go in the room for a bit.
At least 6 months.
Yeah, we didn't
got
actually go in the room.
pregnant very soon after. That's a whole other story. But do you remember what we did that night?
And I know I just went straight to bed. I don't even think we talked about it. I think we just went to bed. Like, I didn't even sleep. I didn't even sleep.
I can tell you exactly what we did. We watched Scream.
Me? Yeah. I guess I wasn't watching it because that was in the front.
I don't think either of us were watching it, but that's what was on the TV.
And then when I went back to work, it was all silent. Everyone was like, "How was the baby? How was the baby?" And I was like, "No, she didn't make it." And that was one of the hardest things that I had to do because I have to tell all my coworkers that that happened. I mean, because everyone was like, "Oh yeah," rooting for me, and like, "Look, the baby's coming," and all that thing. And to go back to work and say, "Okay, there's no baby. She didn't actually make it," right? That was kind of hard and like very hard. It was like sad. I was like so sad. I was like there and I was working and I didn't even know what the hell I was doing at the time, right? because each time he's having these flashbacks in my head all day. Yeah, I mean, all day. There was this one good friend, this Rasta guy that we used to work in the same department together, and we were like, he was the one, like, I was like talking to him, right? And he was like trying to, like, you know what I mean, get me in a good place, right? By just talking, you know, meaning that was just talking, because I share a lot of things with him, right? Because we're close while we were working there, right? So he was the one that I was actually talking to. I actually don't know most of these things, but you know what I mean? But yeah, he was the one who actually, you know, kind of calmed me down a little bit. I mean, because I was like, I was doing my job and I was literally shaking. You know, each time I was thinking back at these things. I'm very good at hiding my emotions. So I'd be dying inside, I'd be feeling the pain inside, but somehow my smile, I kind of use it to mask it away. You know what I mean? But you know, that was kind of hard to myself. Sometimes I would go in the bathroom. I'm going to the bathroom, and just tears just come to my eyes. Each time I go in the bathroom, I look in the mirror and I say, "Why me? You know, why you gotta be me?" You know what I mean? And tears just come to my eyes. I just couldn't have, and I still do it to this day. I actually don't know these things because I keep it to myself sometimes, right? I keep it to myself sometimes. Like, I really miss Almada. I didn't get to know her, the plans that we had for her. You know what I mean? Just sad. Sometimes it comes right back to me, it hits me. I'd be like sitting here, not doing anything, and she just comes up in my head. Bam. You know what I mean? It just comes right up there, and it's like I'm starting having these memories again. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it hurts, you know? Yeah, to lose your first child, like you have so much plans for. We had all these plans what we're gonna do, you know the plans that we have. I was planning way ahead, like years ahead. And when she goes to high school, when she do this, there was so much plans that we had all set up for her. And to know that okay, it's just not gonna happen. That's one of the some of the hardest things that I have to deal with right now. But as I said before, I get emotional sometimes over her, but I tend not to let my emotions show. Right? I keep it to myself. You know, I keep it to myself when I think to myself and I say things to myself.
The video, like, it went a little bit away from what I had meant for it to. I had kind of meant for us to share our story and then share tips. But I think we're gonna end it now. I'll do the tips some other time because I feel like this has gone into like a little bit more of like almost like a counseling session or something. You know? So I'll do tips later.
Yeah, you should do tips later. This is like a more video about it. Yeah, you gotta do tips later.
Yeah, I think this is just going to be our story, and I'll do another video at another time. A lot of this stuff I had never heard before, so this has been really eye-opening for me. I guess I have to do more of these videos more often if I want to find things out.